Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Anthony Kraus, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Onar Inc. Please note, you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Claude Stanow, Chief Executive Officer of Onar Inc., which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol RELT. Welcome, Claude.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate the time and having me here today and for making that intro. Just before we jump in, because I have a bunch of slides prepared today and then we'll do some Q&A at the end, wanted to just make sure to clarify, us and our ticker. So the ticker is RELT. We were previously, or still are, Reliant Holdings Inc. is the parent company. Onar was recently a merger of Reliant, and as a result, I'm now the CEO. So there's some information out there about that we can talk about. But today, the purpose of this kind of conversation is really just to kind of introduce you all to Onar, who we are, what we're doing, and how this is going to be the flagship business for RELT going forwards. So I'm going to jump into a presentation. There's a bunch of slides. My goal today is to kind of give you a little bit of background, who Onar is, what the company's about, what our strategy is, and then, of course, again, opening up some questions at the end. So first and foremost, we look at Onar as a family of brands. So we're a group of companies. We have 3 subsidiaries that I'll talk about in a little bit. Onar itself means to dream in Greek. And also we love the play on the word honor, right? It comes this idea of serving clients with honor and candor. So although it's been written ONAR, we really play on both of that. The other thing is the logo here is about a chimera, which I think also speaks to us, which is a mythological creature that is an amalgamation of its parts, right? And that really is what is kind of core to Onar and the different businesses that we have within our group. Now, of course, at a high level, if you've read anything about us or seen anything out there ahead of this conversation, we're a marketing and advertising group. A huge part of what we're doing is leveraging technologies like artificial intelligence, like machine learning, and applying it to do things better, faster, and create more meaningful results for the clients that we're working with. And I'll get into that a little bit later and happy to answer some questions. Quickly about kind of our core values. You obviously, integrity is a big part of it. Collaboration, really, because we have a robust team, currently about 50 employees across the world. So across literally 5 different continents, 60% of our workforce is international, and really how that team collaborates and comes together across our agencies that we own is a big part of it. The other one is innovation. Again, I touched a little bit about artificial intelligence and how we're leveraging things to make us be able to do things better, create better results, and faster and more efficiently. And I can get into some examples. And then, of course, excellence, right? We're a marketing and advertising company. Our goal is to create results for our clients, and we have to be very good at what we do in today's very fragmented and noisy world to be able to do that. A little bit about us at a high level in terms of, we're building from the ground up, right? We're at the infancy stage of what we're doing. The company's been around barely 2 years. And now obviously going kind of public for the purpose of really being able to attract kind of more shareholders, more support for what we're doing, but as well as create an opportunity on the acquisition side of things. Today, cost of capital is very high. We believe there's a lot of great companies out there that want to benefit from being part of a larger group, benefit from the way we approach technology, benefit from the experience, benefit from kind of access to collaboration. And so part of us becoming a public company now and being part and kind of the lead part of RELT is really so we can continue to do acquisitions like we've already been doing in the private sector, but doing it publicly, right? And leveraging the ability to use public equity as a currency to entice sellers of their companies to become part of our group and share in the overall success as we grow forwards, right? So the company was basically born out of acquisitions. We've made 3 acquisitions to date, and we'll talk about kind of what's left from there. We plan on making another 2 to 4 acquisitions before the end of the year. The size of the acquisitions is getting a little bit bigger and more diverse. And we'll talk about what those acquisitions look like. And then and obviously recurring revenue. So for us as a company, and the focus around how we're building this enterprise is really how do we maximize enterprise value, right? So for us, recurring revenue means almost every single one of our businesses has recurring month-over-month revenue, right? We're really focused on diversification of revenue, recurring nature of revenue, productization of revenue, which for us, that means basically being able to offer not necessarily custom solutions, but solutions that we can kind of sell again and again and again to our customers, right? And then, of course, we don't want to have high concentration of revenue. So when we're looking at businesses to acquire, even how we're operating, that's what we're constantly focusing, because we believe that today's market needs fundamental businesses. Agencies are, for all intents and purposes, professional services businesses, and being able to fundamentally create growth and fundamentally produce income and positive net income is key to what we're doing, how we're looking at acquisitions, and how we plan to grow the company going forwards and create maximum shareholder value, right? And again, we're at this awesome opportunity of being at the ground level of where the stock is, of where the company is. Things are very clean. There's no, there's just a great opportunity to kind of build from here. And we're very excited about the future potential of that. So I'm going to jump quickly into what our brands are, right, within our family, our agencies, the kind of subsidiaries. So each one of these companies is wholly owned by Onar. And then, of course, Reliant Holdings, RELT. And I'm going to go through, talk a little bit about each business, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail about what makes us different. So first, meet Storia. Storia is our anchor agency. It's the largest part of our business right now. Basically, it is a performance marketing agency, right? So for us, we're focused on driving results through online and digital advertising, right? So we're buying media on behalf of e-commerce, consumer product companies, and even some B2B companies, right, to generate sales or traffic or something that's going to create a return on that revenue, right? So we call it, we focus about being performance-based because that is really huge component to how we look at, creating value for our customers, right? And, I'll give you an example. I mentioned artificial intelligence before, right? Some of the ways we're applying artificial intelligence. So we run media. If you've ever been on Instagram, you've ever been on Facebook, Google, right? You might get advertisements there. That's what when I'm talking about media, performance media, that's where you're seeing this sort of stuff, and in other places as well. But if you notice, whether you get an ad on Instagram, or you get an ad on Facebook or Google or YouTube or whatever the channel is, that media is different. That advertisement is different based on wherever it shows up, right? And so for us, a big thing we've been able to do is we used to have to have a room of creatives, right? Kind of recutting that advertisement based on where it was going. Right now, we're able to use artificial intelligence, right, to basically seamlessly recut that and do the job of 10 people in a matter of seconds, and then deliver that media for all the different platforms it needs to go, right? And that's a huge level of efficiency and a huge thing that we're doing that helps our performance business differentiate itself and continue to be growing. So Storia, that is really kind of the core aspect of what we're doing. And the other thing that's different about Storia is it's all productized flat rate pricing, right? So if you've looked at ever heard of another digital advertising agency, many digital agencies charge a percentage of revenue, which I believe is fundamentally misaligned with customers. And so instead, we charge a fixed rate based on where we are running that media and that advertisement, right? Which is very different, but it's created a huge amount of retention for us and a huge amount of client growth in that business. Of course, I mentioned paid media is kind of the focus of what Storia's business is, but we also do have creative services and web development services that support that, right? So if you have a product, you want to sell it online, you need to build yourself a Shopify website and make sure it converts and make sure it's got, SEO and all the things that's needed before you even start driving customers. They can do that as well, right? So that's the Storia business. I'm going to move on to VMed. So VMed started for us as a business supporting laboratories needing to do testing, right? Going out and acquiring customers for those laboratories. But now we're actually growing it to be a full service healthcare agency. And so, just to kind of talk a little bit about where VMed is and where it's going. So we're going to be announcing a rebrand of VMed in the very near future. And, a part of this kind of rebrand is talking about this transition from not just serving laboratories and helping them market to their customers and clients, but how are we embracing kind of the holistic world of healthcare and where it is right now. And that's wellness, that's weight loss, that's anti-aging, that's providing solutions, leveraging kind of all the things we know about how to deal with, the most important parts of the medical and healthcare industries, and then starting to offer clients better solutions for that. So right now, the focus has been on kind of getting the right treatments and the right testing and supporting that to our customers, which are hospitals, healthcare providers, medical facilities, and then the labs that we're working with on behalf of that. And it's going to be growing that into being much more robust than just that as we go into the future. Last agency I'm going to talk about is our experiential agency, Chalk. If you're not familiar with Chalk or experiential marketing just in general, it really just means how a brand comes to life in the physical world. If you've ever been to a supermarket, somebody is sampling food and you're trying it, that's a brand experience, right? You ever been in a bar or restaurant and somebody's promoting, whether it's Budweiser or whatever the brand is, that is a physical experience, right? And that can go all the way up to full-on immersive experiences where you see a TV show recreated at Comic-Con at a massive conference, right? So for us, Chalk is our cornerstone for those sort of real life, real world experiences. While Storia is our digital kind of anchor, this is how we complement it for a lot of the brands that we work with that want to have those physical, real life, worldwide experiences. Now, granted, I talked about recurring revenue. For us, we're very focused on not being so project based in Chalk, but being recurring based, right? So how are we working with companies and clients on not just a one-off project, right, but offering them ongoing kind of creative solutions and planning around how their brand is coming to life all year round, right? Whether that's at a conference, whether that's at, an experience or a pop-up, or whether that's, having a street team sampling out there and doing something. So that's kind of our third pillar to our organization. Now I'm going to jump into a little bit about our model, why we're a house of brands, how that works, and really why we think that's beneficial for making acquisitions as we go forwards, right? Hub and spoke infrastructure, right? This is a big piece of what we're doing. So at the Onar platform level, we're centralizing costs, benefits, things like finance, all these sort of things that really all these companies that we own and operate need, but they can share in those costs and not bear them directly, which makes us more efficient. The other part of it is obviously technology, right? Talked a lot about how we're leveraging artificial intelligence. I gave you the example of basically recutting creative based on where it ends, right? I'm sure some of you already played with ChatGPT, right? Copywriting and playing with how that is, but we get much more robust than that, right? We actually can do predictive analytics around how something's going to perform and make decisions on how much money should be spent behind it, and to make our basically campaigns more and more successful. And this isn't just limited to our digital business, by the way. We're applying AI to both our healthcare and our experiential business. Of course, expert team. I mentioned our kind of global workforce that's kind of growing and adding to it. Everybody who's part of the team has had many years in the agency world. Some of them starting infantily at agencies and growing over a period of time. Some of them coming from some of the biggest agencies in the world like WPP and Omnicom and Havas, some of the bigger, larger holding companies that are out there. So that's kind of our core to what makes our model a bit different. And then I'll add to that the fact that now we're obviously in this incredible place of being a publicly traded company kind of at the ground floor. Now, kind of going into, I talked a little bit about structure. This is kind of a better way to show how it works. So if you look at the platform being Onar, and then you could look each one of the agencies below, that's talking about, Chalk, VMed, and Storia are different agencies, right? So this is that hub and spoke sort of design that we've talked about, right? And of course, part of the benefit is in many cases, we're trying to have pillars or tent poles, as you would say, that are not competitive with one another, right? We're not going to own 3 different healthcare marketing agencies that are their own kind of pillars competing with one another, which is different than I think a lot of other maybe agency networks or agency groups out there, right? Our focus is to have kind of these one digital brand that supports all the digital work that we're doing, one experiential brand, one healthcare brand, eventually maybe one PR brand, right? Basically offering a house of brands, like an auto dealership, like a Ford dealership, right? Where it's like you can buy a pickup truck or you can buy the EV, you can buy them both. It's all just based on your needs. And the same thing for our customers. So we can kind of provide these kind of pick and choose sort of agile offerings for our customers and do that within one ecosystem that's very understanding for them. Now, as I talk about, in some of the shareholder letter you've seen, I talk a lot about acquisitions and growth and why we're making acquisitions. I'm going to touch a little bit about that right now. So we're really focused on basically acquiring sub, $3 million EBITDA companies. We'll go a little bit more than that. We'll go a little bit less than that, of course. But the focus is, our belief is there's these great companies out there that have incredible service offerings, that are pioneers in things like AI, machine learning, et cetera, because they're the people that maybe are being much more creative in terms of how they're applying these things and doing these things. And these companies just need help to scale. They need a platform to build on, right? And they're looking for that opportunity to grow into a larger ecosystem with a team of people who have done that before. I've done that before, and there's a lot of people on our team who are very experienced in kind of the M&A integration side of things. And our belief is that if we can acquire a bunch of companies that are on the smaller size at certain EBITDA ranges and scale the company as a collective, as a network, as a group, Onar will have significant more value on the consolidated EBITDA, and we'll get the benefits of cross-selling, we'll get the benefits of cost savings, and we'll get the benefits of kind of creating a much more powerful organization going forwards. Here's just an example of kind of the sort of agencies that we're looking at and kind of the areas that we're looking to make acquisitions. So I mentioned public relations. You'll see this experiential is on this, right? We would potentially buy another experiential business and plug that into our existing experiential vertical, right? And there's an incredible amount of mix of different types of marketing and advertising that exist out there. And so as we continue to grow and scale, and we look at these businesses and we look at the incredible founders of some of these companies that are running these businesses, we're looking at how that all comes together. And it couldn't be, from a footprint perspective, maybe it's a company in Europe and a company in the US. Maybe we buy 2 PR agencies, right, and put them together to give us that global footprint. Again, all of it is circles back to one key thing, right? How do we maximize enterprise value? How are we buying companies that are fundamentally sound, right? And how are we doing things that are building our business towards the ultimate future of eventually growing and maybe being on NASDAQ one day, and kind of creating that value, not just for obviously our shareholders, but value for our employees, right? Value for the people who entrust us by selling their businesses to us and become part of our network, and just holistically as a company that needs to be growing and continuing to move forwards. So that's a little bit about us at a high level. Here's, again, Onar, our 3 subsidiaries, Storia, VMed, and Chalk. And now I'm going to open this up for questions for the last 10 or so minutes that we have here. And my contact information is here as well in case anyone wants to reach out. I'm happy to, of course, connect with anyone and everyone about what we're doing. I'm very excited, and I think it's going to be hugely opportunistic what we're doing in the future. So I think now Brad Listerman, our IR director, is going to be joining us to kind of field some questions that are coming in and make sure I covered everything that we wanted to present today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Again, the stock symbol right now is RELT for Onar. And thank you, Claude, for that very enlightening presentation. A lot of exciting things obviously happening with the company. We did have a couple of questions come in from the shareholders. I'm going to try to look through these to make sure they're not too repetitive, because you really covered a lot of the information on there. One of the questions that came through, I think you touched on it, but would you mind talking about, it says, would you mind touching about your acquisition strategy? Can you share any recent acquisition highlights and how they enhanced Onar's service capabilities and market reach?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, let me just talk about the strategy again a little bit, and then I'll dive into an example of an acquisition we did previously. And one thing I forgot to mention, Honor is kind of our new brand as part of becoming a public company and all the things that we're trying to do going forwards. The company was previously called Integrum Worldwide. So if you see some stuff out there, you'll probably see that was our brand beforehand, before this kind of overarching rebrand. And we put some news out about that. Why I mention that is because one of the main acquisitions that we did to kind of build Integrum and build the company and actually build Storia to where it is today as our kind of anchor business was acquiring a company called Health Creative. And this is a perfect example how an acquisition can reshape a part of the overall company, right? We made the decision to acquire Health Creative primarily because they directly hit some of the things that we've now rolled out across the board from our strategy. So I talked about productized and I talked about recurring nature of revenue, but I also talked about different pricing model that Storia has, right? And Health Creative had that, right? Most digital agencies, and even us, before we kind of made the shift, we're charging based on a percentage of ad spend. So what that means is if you're a customer and you're spending $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, $1 million a month on advertising on any platform, right? Your agency charges you a percentage of what you're spending. So even if that percentage goes down over a period of time, you basically are still paying more the more money they spend. And that more money they spend doesn't necessarily correlate to success, doesn't correlate to return on revenue, doesn't necessarily correlate to your business performing. Right. And so when we acquired Health Creative, we adapted their model of this kind of productized per platform sort of offering where we charge fixed fee, regardless of whether you're spending $1,000 or $1 million a month. And that was just an example and that's just a small example of how an acquisition can fundamentally change us as we grow, right? And going back to the chimera and this idea of honor, right? We're building, we're growing, we're trying to amalgamate and absorb the best of the best features of every acquisition that we bring in, right? It's not about buying something and forcing them to operate our way. It's about what are they doing that's different, that's better. Let's absorb that. And what do we have that's different and better? And let's use that to support them, right? And again, as I mentioned, from an acquisition strategy, we're really focused on this lower middle market, right? This kind of $1 to $5 million EBITDA range and really kind of 3 million and under being the sweet spot. We're focused on that area because that's where we believe the innovation is coming from. That's where we believe, the people who are using AI to do things like create video commercials that used to take tens of thousands of dollars and days to do, to be able to do them in a matter of seconds, and are doing them in a brand safe way and doing them in a way that actually is legal and obviously can be reused. But those people, these smaller companies, they're the ones on the forefront, right? It's not, what's being owned by the giant conglomerates that already exist out there. So we're trying to basically create, scale and the ability to kind of fully service our clients, but have that same boutique kind of creativity driven by each one of our tent poles and each one of the agencies that we bring in to our ecosystem. And that's a big part of why we're growing. We obviously need to grow organically. And that's, that's the baseline, right? Have a good fundamental organic business. Every business we buy needs to check those boxes. But then the next is how is what they have technology wise, process wise, system wise, supporting our overall vision and creating a bigger, more successful, more valuable company.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer. Claude, we had about 5 or 6 questions, but in the interest of time, diving through some of them again, one that came up was, could you share some notable case studies that illustrate the impact of Honor's services on your client's success? Is there any brand names we might recognize?
So look, I got to be careful naming brand names without kind of having previously talked about them, especially divesting specific information around performance of the campaigns, the advertising they're spending. But I can give you kind of a high level experience. So one of our customers, is a, multi, $100 million business, right? In terms of revenue. And they've been around for a long period of time, and they sold into retail. They were doing almost nothing digitally, not even exploring the value of what digital can do to their business, right? And we started working with them and had to be involved on a few different levels. One, just educating the customer on why digital was important and how to do digital, right? And how to be in online marketing and do that. But since we've started working with them, not only has their spend with us doubled or tripled, but their digital is now 10% of their business, and we project within the next 5 years to be larger than their retail side of their business, right? And it's growing rapidly. And there's just a huge part of that is this. Basically, we live in a digital world, right? We're all in a virtual conference right now. People are on their cell phones. While retail and physical experience is always going to be a part of that, brands need to transform and be embracing how to be effective in that digital world. And it's not, big, fancy commercials. It's literally getting down to where people are, meeting them at the right time, the right place, with the right message to get them to be part of your brand journey and kind of own part of your brand by buying a product or something like that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that answer. A couple other questions that came in. Let's see. One was, pardon me, I'm just trying to understand how they're wording this. Do you consider Onar an AI company? How does it leverage technology and innovation to stay ahead in a competitive marketing landscape? I think you sort of answered that. Do you believe that that AI is an integral part of the technology, and do you believe that's how the company will stay competitive?
Yeah, look, I touched on a little bit, but I'll say something about AI. And I heard this quote the other day, and I think it's really relevant, right? Everyone's afraid of AI replacing jobs, right? And I think the future is not about necessarily AI replacing jobs as much as the people who know how to leverage and use AI the best, right? And use technology the best are the ones that are going to be at the forefront and be the most successful, right? And we are 1000%, I think, an AI-enabled marketing company where we spend a lot of money, a lot of time attending a lot of conferences, researching a lot of information. And because of what we're doing and because we're so involved, we're beta testing a lot of stuff before it's even available to the public, right? And that's a huge part where we can be part of shaping how we're building our own technology stack, right? It's not just, ChatGPT off the shelf and saying, hey, write me copy for a social media ad, right? It's not that. It's much more robust and complex, and how we're bringing different types of AI, like language models, like things that can visualize models, and putting them all together to basically create these sort of higher performing, better resulting marketing campaigns for our clients. And so, yeah, it's a huge part of what we're doing, because look, at the end of the day, the role of the CMO and the chief sales officer, the chief revenue officer are becoming one and the same, right? People want results, people want efficiency, and they want that out of their marketing, right? You have to be able to kind of generate those results. So if you're not leveraging artificial intelligence, if you're not on the bleeding edge of what's going on and applying that to how you are helping your customers sell their products or their services, you're going to fall behind really quickly. And so that's why we are 1000% focused on continuing to invest, continuing to learn, and continue to apply AI to everything we do.
Sounds great. That's a great answer. And we only got time maybe for one more question. Claude, one of the questions, what are you doing about effectively investor relations? And I can answer that. This company is committed to transparency. You'll be seeing a lot of stuff like this coming from Claude and the company. Absolutely, a lot of communications, a lot of openness, a lot of transparency. The company's mission about integrity goes all the way across the board, including investor relations. Claude, one last question, if you have time. What is your long-term vision for Onar? Where do you see the company in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, look, I think all companies need to be growing, right? And I think there's this unfortunate situation where we've seen a lot of investment in companies and some technology businesses, et cetera, which has worked out in some cases, may not, of just growth for growth's sake, right? And you see what happens where some of these companies implode, where there's just so much put into them and they really don't figure out that fundamental business model, right? And so I think for us, we want to grow, right? We want to be a $100 million plus business. We believe that we can get to 15 to 20% EBITDA margins at that scale, and then grow and then uplist and continue to be a significant player in the marketing and advertising world. But we don't get there if we don't maintain the fundamentals, if we don't take step by step in terms of acquisitions, in terms of core growth, in terms of everything we're doing, right? And so it's really about building a business that builds long-term value and does that through, I think, the key things I mentioned earlier, right? And that is diversification of revenue. So for us, owning different agencies, we have diverse revenue that is less susceptible to kind of big market changes. Two is that recurring kind of productized nature of revenue, right? The more recurring, the more software as a service we sort of feel like, even though we're professional services businesses, the better, right? The more that revenue is not just focused in one geographic location, right? Global revenue is going to be a huge part of what we're doing. And then really beyond kind of those parts of it is how are we doing stuff that is leveraging technology to make the revenue we're creating for this organization as efficient for our customers as it is for ourselves. So when I think about our long-term vision and where we're going, we have a big goal. We want to make a bunch of acquisitions along the way. We want to make sure we're growing organically during that process. But it's really about kind of taking it step by step fundamentally, right? And I think we can get there. I think there's a lot of great companies out there that would be great parts of what we're doing.
Thank you so much. I think we're out of time. We appreciate your time today, Claude.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in here, and look forward to doing this